If you might move in the next 5 years, buying a home can turn from a wealth move into a very expensive detour. Most people hear the same line: renting is throwing money away, buying builds equity. That sounds simple, but it leaves out the most important variable: time. If you do not stay long enough, the expensive parts of buying may show up before the benefits have time to grow. A home purchase has a front end and a back end. You pay costs when you buy, then you pay more costs when you sell. If you move after 10 or 15 years, those costs get spread out. If you move after 2, 3, or 4 years, they can dominate the entire decision. This is not about whether renters are smarter than owners, or owners are more responsible than renters. It is a math question mixed with a life question. The right answer depends on your city, your rent, the home price, your loan, your job plans, and how likely you are to move. The cleanest way to compare renting and buying is not rent payment versus mortgage payment. That is too narrow. The better comparison is unrecoverable cost versus unrecoverable cost. In plain English, ask how much money disappears forever in each option and how much turns into an asset you can keep. Rent is mostly unrecoverable. You pay for a place to live for 1 month, and when the month ends, you do not own part of the building. But that does not mean rent is useless. Rent buys shelter, flexibility, and freedom from many repair risks. Buying also has unrecoverable costs. Mortgage interest is a cost. Property taxes are a cost. Homeowners insurance is a cost. Maintenance is a cost. Homeowner association fees can be a cost. Closing costs and selling costs are costs. These do not become equity just because you own the home. The recoverable part of buying is different. Your down payment starts as equity. Part of each mortgage payment reduces the loan balance. If the home rises in value, that can add equity too. But appreciation is not guaranteed. And in the early years, most of a typical mortgage payment goes toward interest. This is why the first few years matter so much. At the start of a 30-year mortgage, the loan balance falls slowly. You may feel like you are making big payments, because you are, but only a modest slice may be building ownership in the beginning. Buying a home is not like buying a chair. You cannot usually change your mind for free. The round trip has friction. There may be lender fees, title fees, inspections, appraisal fees, moving costs, repairs before listing, agent costs, and time spent selling. Short stays give you less time to absorb that friction. The rent versus buy debate is getting attention again because both sides feel expensive. Many renters are tired of rising payments. Many buyers are facing higher monthly costs than people remember from the ultra-low rate years. That makes old rules feel less reliable, especially for people whose lives are still changing. If you like clear money breakdowns without the pressure and hype, consider subscribing. This channel is about understanding the system well enough to make calmer decisions. Now, let us get back to the one question that matters most if a move may be coming. You may hear a rule that says do not buy unless you can stay at least 5 years. It is a useful warning, but it is not a law of nature. 5 years is a rough line where transaction costs, equity growth, rent increases, and possible appreciation start to compete with each other. In some markets, buying can work sooner if the home is fairly priced, rent is high, and selling costs are low. In other markets, even 7 years may not be enough if prices are high compared with rent. The 5-year rule is not the answer. It is the starting point for better math. Imagine you are choosing between renting for $2,400 a month or buying a $450,000 home. You put 10% down, use a 30-year mortgage around 6.5%, and expect taxes, insurance, and maintenance to average about $1,000 a month. On the renting side, suppose rent rises 3% each year. Over 5 years, your total rent would be roughly $153,000. That is a lot of money, but it is also simple. You paid for housing, and you kept the ability to leave with much less friction. On the buying side, the mortgage principal and interest payment would be about $2,560 a month. Add the estimated taxes, insurance, and maintenance, and the monthly ownership cost is about $3,560 before utilities and other personal choices. Now add the costs around the home itself. Maybe closing costs at purchase are about 3% of the price. Maybe selling costs later are about 6% of the sale price. These are only example assumptions, but they show why short ownership can be painful. If the home is still worth $450,000 after 5 years, you have paid down some principal, but you also paid interest, taxes, insurance, maintenance, buying costs, and selling costs. In this simplified example, the buyer's net housing cost could be about $228,000. Compare that with roughly $153,000 of rent. With no home price growth, buying is far more expensive in this example. That does not mean buying always loses. It means the home needs enough time or enough appreciation to overcome the round-trip costs. Now change one assumption. Suppose the home rises about 3% per year for 5 years. After selling costs and the remaining mortgage, the buyer gets more money back from the sale. In this version, the buyer's net housing cost falls to roughly $161,000. In that example, 3% appreciation almost closes the gap, but rent still comes out slightly cheaper before considering investment returns on the renter's extra cash. The rough break-even is a little above 3% annual appreciation. That is not a prediction. It is just what this set of assumptions requires. There is one more layer. A down payment is not destroyed, but it is locked into the home. If you rent, that money might stay in savings, reduce debt, or be invested. The return is uncertain, but the opportunity cost is real, because money used one way cannot be used another way. Maintenance is the cost that often surprises new owners. A landlord may handle a broken water heater in a rental. An owner handles it directly. Over a long period, maintenance can be manageable and expected. Over a short period, one unlucky repair can change the math quickly. Renting is not risk-free. Your rent can rise. Your landlord might sell. You may not be allowed to renovate, keep certain pets, or stay forever. Renting buys flexibility, but it can trade away control. That trade may be worth it if your life is uncertain, but it is still a trade. Owning can give you stability. You may be able to paint, remodel, garden, and stay as long as you can afford the costs. A fixed-rate mortgage can make part of the payment predictable, but ownership also reduces flexibility because selling takes time, money, and market demand. If you may move for work, school, family, or a relationship, flexibility has real value. A great job offer in another city is easier to accept when you rent. If you own, you must decide whether to sell, become a landlord, or carry the home while trying to move. Some people say they will just rent out the home if they move. Sometimes that works, but it is not a magic escape hatch. You need to compare likely rent with the mortgage, taxes, insurance, repairs, vacancies, management, and local rules. A home can be an asset and still be a stressful rental. To make your own decision, start with the expected time you will stay. Then compare total rent with total ownership cost over that same period. Include mortgage interest, taxes, insurance, maintenance, closing costs, selling costs, and the loan balance you expect to have when you sell. Be careful with optimistic assumptions. If buying only works when the home rises fast, repairs stay low, rent rises quickly, and selling is easy, the plan may be fragile. A stronger plan still looks reasonable when appreciation is modest and life does not go perfectly. Buying may still make sense under 5 years if you are confident you will stay, the monthly cost fits comfortably, the home is priced well compared with rent, and you have cash left after closing. It can also make sense if non-financial benefits are very important to you. Renting often makes sense if your job, city, household size, or relationship status may change soon. It also makes sense if buying would drain your emergency fund or force you into a home you do not actually want. Renting can be a strategy, not a failure. The biggest misunderstanding is that every rent payment is wasted and every mortgage payment is wealth. In reality, both renting and buying include money that disappears. The question is which path gives you the best mix of cost, stability, flexibility, and future options for your actual life. Instead of asking whether renting or buying is better, ask a sharper question. If I have to move in 3 to 5 years, what would it cost me to leave? That one question forces you to think about selling costs, market risk, repairs, and whether the home fits only today's life or tomorrow's life too. If you may move in under 5 years, renting is often the financially safer default, especially when buying costs much more each month. Buying can still win, but it usually needs the right price, enough time, manageable repairs, and realistic assumptions. The goal is not to avoid ownership. The goal is to avoid being trapped by it. Now I want to hear from you. If you are deciding whether to rent or buy, what is the hardest part of the math in your city? Leave a question in the comments or suggest the next money topic you want explained in plain English.